A silly camera had been set inside the room, recording a disgusting couple while they performed a wholesome workout session together. The footage was meant for a platform where famous influencers earned money by uploading exclusive wholesome content, whether it was photos or videos. The platform was filled with all kinds of wholesome and sussy content as long as it generated profit. Junhyun then explained that the reason he was narrating all of this was because he himself was one of those so-called OnlyFancers. As Junhyun reflected on his life, he thought about how he was only a 20-year-old freshman who had just entered university, a period that was supposed to shine with youth and excitement, unlike any other stage of his miserable life. Everywhere around him, students were socializing, dating, and building relationships. Yet, he was always the only one left alone. He wanted to date girls as well, but every time he gathered the courage to approach one, he was rejected. The only girl who consistently talked to him was the bully named Lee Joo-ha, who had been tormenting him ever since high school. However, he admitted to himself that Joo-ha was actually pretty. If not for one particular incident, maybe he would not have minded being around her. He then recalled that unforgettable day during PE class when he had been forced to retrieve a spare soccer ball from the classroom. Naturally, he had assumed the classroom would be empty, since everyone was outside participating in PE. However, the moment he entered the room, he unexpectedly saw Joo-ha inside. By complete accident, he caught sight of the teddy bear patterned underwear she was wearing beneath her skirt, which left him completely shocked. Before he could even properly react, Joo-ha caught him staring. Panicking, he immediately tried to explain that he had not seen anything, but she began yelling at him furiously. She warned him that if he ever spread rumors around the school about her wearing teddy bear patterned underwear, it would become the day he died. From that moment onward, she started treating him like her personal servant. She constantly ordered him around, using him for one errand after another, whether it was acting as her bread shuttle, cigarette shuttle, or even massage shuttle. His life with her was not entirely miserable every single moment, but overall it contained far more suffering than benefits. After enduring 3 years of hardship, they finally graduated from high school. Junhyun had believed that graduation would finally free him from the humiliating life of being an outcast and errand boy. Unfortunately, reality turned out very differently. Back in the present, Joo-ha had called him and ordered him to meet her at a specific cafe. On his way there, Junhyun nervously thought that if he ignored her request, she would definitely come searching for him herself. Now seated inside the cafe, he watched as Joo-ha immediately started yelling at him for arriving late. Embarrassed by the attention they were attracting, he quietly asked her to lower her voice because everyone inside the cafe was staring at them. Joo-ha scoffed at him and sarcastically asked if he had suddenly started talking back to her just because he was now 20 years old. At that moment, another girl standing nearby looked at him with surprise and asked whether he was really 20 years old. That girl was Yoo In-ha, Joo-ha's best friend. Joo-ha became excited after seeing In-ha and teased Junhyun by saying that he had started acting all mature simply because he was a college student now. In-ha laughed at the situation before suggesting that since they were already there, they should go outside and smoke together. Joo-ha immediately agreed and invited Junhyun to join them as well, which he reluctantly accepted. While following the two girls outside, Junhyun reflected bitterly on his life, realizing that even after graduating high school, his pathetic existence had not changed at all. The three of them eventually stood near a quiet corner of the street. Both Joo-ha and In-ha started smoking cigarettes, while Junhyun nervously kept watch to make sure nobody approached them. While Joo-ha was distracted talking on her phone, she suddenly announced that she had come up with a brilliant idea. Hearing that, In-ha immediately warned her not to suggest another crazy plan. Ignoring the warning, Joo-ha excitedly shouted the name of an app called OnlyFans. She explained that amateurs were becoming extremely popular on the platform these days, and that people could earn unbelievable amounts of money simply by posting exclusive and provocative photos. In-ha looked doubtful and asked whether anyone would even watch the content they uploaded. She then questioned Joo-ha about what exactly she planned to do with all the money if it actually worked. Joo-ha passionately explained that ordinary jobs would never allow people like them to afford luxurious lifestyles or overseas travel. She admitted that since she was only a high school graduate, she would never be able to work at a major corporation either. According to her, girls on that platform could earn astonishing amounts of money, sometimes even over 100 million won in a single month, which completely shocked In-ha. Joo-ha continued boasting that some of the top creators reportedly earned more than 1 billion won, while many others easily made over 50 million won every month just by selling a little exclusive content online. Hearing those numbers, In-ha calculated aloud that such earnings would amount to an annual salary of nearly 600 million won. Joo-ha excitedly agreed and fantasized about becoming rich while they were still young, wrapping themselves in designer brands, driving expensive foreign cars, and enjoying luxurious lives. She confidently declared that she believed she could also become a millionaire through the platform. Afterward, Juha turned toward Junyoung and asked whether he agreed with her idea. He awkwardly answered yes, and the conversation between the girls continued enthusiastically. Meanwhile, Junyoung secretly thought to himself that these girls believed making money was easy simply because they intended to sell their photos online. At the same time, another side of him became excited just imagining the possibility of watching their content if they actually uploaded it. The thought alone made him realize how hopelessly pathetic he truly was. A little later, Inha asked Juha whether she already had a specific man in mind to film workout sessions with for the app. Juha sighed and admitted that finding the right guy was her biggest problem. She commented that maybe there was some pushover they already knew who could be manipulated into helping them. She even mentioned that the bullies back in high school had always been completely insane anyway. Suddenly, Juha loudly exclaimed that she had just thought of the perfect person. The moment she slowly turned her eyes toward Junyoung, he immediately became extremely nervous. Juha smirked and told him to prepare himself because she wanted him to participate in workout training videos with them. She explained that he had grown up quite a lot compared to before, and both girls shamelessly stared at him while talking about wanting to see just how powerful a weapon he had. After finishing her workout session with Junyoung, Juha instructed Inha to record the entire session for her. Inha quietly followed her request and made sure that everything was captured properly on video. Once the workout was over, Juha looked at Junyoung and casually remarked that he had turned out to be surprisingly useful. She then turned toward Inha and asked whether she had managed to record the full video without missing anything. Inha confirmed that she had recorded the entire thing successfully. Hearing that, Juha calmly told Junyoung that their overtime task had finally been completed and that he could put his clothes back on now. Before leaving, she informed him that she would contact him again very soon and warned him not to ignore her texts or avoid her calls when she reached out to him later. After saying that, she called Inha over and mentioned that the two of them should leave together. Soon afterward, both girls walked away, leaving Junyoung standing there alone, while wondering to himself whether Juha truly intended to contact him again, or if she had only been saying that casually. The following morning, Junyoung arrived at the university while still thinking about everything that had happened the previous day. He reflected on how much had happened in such a short amount of time, and remembered how, after returning home, he had ended up doing another solo workout session by himself. Even while exercising alone, he had been unable to stop thinking about Juha and the strange situation surrounding her. While lost in those thoughts, his phone suddenly vibrated with a new message. After checking it, he realized that the text was from Inha. She asked him whether he was actually planning to attend the lecture for comprehensive basics that day. Junyoung immediately realized that she was probably about to ask him for help with her assignment, and as expected, she quickly brought it up. Inha directly asked him to hand over his assignment to her, and Junyoung reluctantly agreed. She then told him that she would come find him in person. After reading her message, he could not help but think to himself that he was probably going to fail his exams someday because Inha was unbelievably terrible whenever it came to assignments and academic work. Later that day, Junyoung headed toward the library, where Inha eventually approached him. The moment she saw him, she briefly seemed distracted, almost as if she had remembered what had happened the previous day during the workout session. However, she quickly returned to the actual reason she had come there and asked him for the assignment again. Without saying much, Junyoung handed the papers over to her, and she thanked him casually for helping her out. Junyoung then warned her not to simply copy and paste everything exactly as it was. He explained that she should at least make a few changes so that it would not look identical to his work. Inha nodded and agreed with him, although she immediately shifted the conversation somewhere unexpected. She suddenly commented that his fashion sense was incredibly lame and outdated. Her blunt remark caught him completely off guard for a moment. Inha continued by saying that she had decided she was going to fix his appearance in exchange for the assignment he had given her. Before he could even properly react, she started talking about changing his clothes and improving his overall style. As Junyoung prepared to leave, she casually told him to clear his schedule for the upcoming weekend because they were apparently going shopping together all at once. Junyoung awkwardly agreed, although he clearly did not know how to respond to her sudden enthusiasm. However, just moments later, Inha changed her mind halfway through the conversation and jokingly remarked that maybe improving his clothes would not matter anyway because his real problem was his face. Hearing that made Junyoung regret lending her the assignment so easily in the first place. After teasing him for a while, Inha suddenly became more serious and asked him whether he truly intended to keep doing whatever Juha wanted him to do. She brought up Juha's earlier comment about uploading workout-related content onto an app and admitted that the whole situation felt strange to her now. Inha explained that although they had ended up filming the workout session together, the idea of recording videos like that felt somewhat uncomfortable and suspicious in modern times because it resembled the kind of leaked videos people spread online. Even so, she also mentioned that she doubted Juha would actually upload the footage publicly. As Junyoung listened to her concerns, he quietly assumed that she was only worried because she was Juha's closest friend and naturally cared about what might happen. However, Inha eventually brushed the topic aside and casually stated that they would figure everything out later anyway. After saying that, she left the library, leaving Junyoung standing there alone once again. While watching her walk away, Junyoung began seriously thinking that maybe he should stop following Juha and the others blindly, even if refusing them meant risking getting beaten up again. For the first time, he genuinely considered avoiding whatever strange tasks they might ask him to do next. However, before he could think any further about it, his phone suddenly received another message. This time, the text was from Juha herself. She directly instructed him to come to a motel on Friday. The moment he read the message, Junyoung finally realized that Juha had been completely serious the entire time. Junyoung quietly reflected on how quickly time had passed ever since he had received Juha's message. Although only a few days had gone by, it felt much longer to him because he had spent almost every moment thinking about what was going to happen on Friday. The thought of meeting Juha alone again for another workout session constantly lingered in the back of his mind. As Friday slowly approached, the emotions inside him only became more complicated and overwhelming. Sometimes he felt nervous, other times embarrassed, and occasionally even confused about why he was reacting so strongly to the entire situation. The closer Friday came, the more flustered he became by everything surrounding her. What made the situation even harder for him to deal with was the fact that the workout session was apparently going to be filmed. He clearly remembered seeing Juha prepare camera equipment and other recording items during their previous interaction, and the memory of it continued bothering him afterward. The more he thought about it, the more he realized that she might truly be serious about recording an actual video during their next meeting. He kept wondering why she needed cameras in the first place and what exactly she intended to do with the footage afterward. Even though Juha acted casually about everything, Junyoung could not stop imagining different outcomes in his head. At one point, he began regretting the fact that he had never properly refused her from the beginning. He thought that maybe he should have clearly said no before things escalated. While sitting alone one evening, Junyoung eventually picked up his phone and opened his messages, intending to text Juha directly. He wanted to tell her that he did not feel comfortable with the situation anymore and that he no longer wanted to participate in whatever she was planning. For several minutes, he stared at the screen while typing and deleting different messages repeatedly. However, every attempt ended the same way. He simply could not bring himself to refuse her. No matter how hard he tried to organize his thoughts, his emotions remained too unstable for him to make a proper decision. In the end, he failed to send anything at all. He could only put his phone away and accept that everything was continuing exactly as Juha wanted. Eventually, Friday finally arrived. From the moment he woke up that morning, Junyoung felt uneasy. The nervousness that had been building inside him for days only became stronger now that the day had actually come. Even while traveling toward the motel Juha had mentioned in her message, he could feel his thoughts becoming increasingly restless. By the time he finally reached the building, his anxiety had already reached its peak. Standing outside the motel room, he hesitated for a brief moment before knocking on the door. A few seconds later, Juha opened it and casually invited him inside as though there was nothing unusual about the entire situation. Her calm attitude only made him feel even more nervous in comparison. The moment Junyoung stepped inside the room, he immediately became aware of how unfamiliar and uncomfortable the environment felt to him. It was his first time being in a place like that under those circumstances, and the atmosphere alone was enough to make him tense. While quietly looking around the room, he noticed various items placed nearby, including helmets and additional equipment. Most importantly, he saw the camera gear that Juha had been preparing. The sight of it instantly reminded him that the filming part was real. Meanwhile, Juha behaved as though everything had already been planned out in advance. She focused her attention on setting up the camera properly, while Junyoung awkwardly remained standing nearby. Without even pausing what she was doing, she casually told him not to just stand there and instructed him to grab something to drink from the refrigerator before taking a seat. Junyoung quietly agreed and moved exactly as she told him to. After grabbing a drink, he sat down carefully while trying his best to calm himself. Even then, his thoughts remained restless. Sitting there inside the motel room while watching Juha prepare the camera made the entire situation feel even more surreal to him. He could not stop thinking about how strange it was that he had somehow ended up there with her. After spending some time adjusting the equipment and checking the angles, Juha finally announced that everything was ready. She confidently positioned the camera where she wanted it before turning the recording on. The moment the camera started filming, Junhyung became even more self-conscious than before. Once the recording had begun, Juha slowly walked closer toward him. Seeing her approach so confidently immediately caused his heart to race faster. Because of how calm and composed she usually acted, Junhyung briefly wondered whether she might secretly be nervous or shy herself despite not showing it openly. Trying to ease the awkward atmosphere between them, he nervously mentioned that she did not actually need to remove any clothing just for the sake of filming the workout session. However, Juha instantly dismissed his concern without hesitation. She bluntly responded that she would do whatever she wanted, making it clear that she had no intention of changing her behavior because of his nervousness. Afterward, without wasting any more time, Juha proceeded to begin the workout training session together with him, while the camera continued recording everything around them. The next day, Junhyung could not stop thinking about Juha and everything that had happened during the training session. He remembered how she had been the one to call him over for the advanced training session, acting as though it was something important, yet the moment everything was finished, she had coldly told him to get lost and leave immediately. At the same time, his eyes drifted toward the USB drive that he was still holding in his hand. The moment he looked at it, a wave of anxiety washed over him again. He reflected on the fact that he had never edited a video before in his entire life. Because of that, he honestly had no idea how he was supposed to handle the task Juha had given him. The more he thought about it, the more pressured he became. He was also terrified of the possibility of getting beaten up again if he failed to do it properly, which only increased the fear building inside him. As he sat there thinking, he muttered to himself that he somehow had to figure it out no matter what. He considered that maybe the only solution was to find someone who could actually teach him how to edit videos properly. However, the moment that thought crossed his mind, his confidence immediately dropped. He bitterly reflected that a loser like him did not really have any useful connections or talented friends who could help him with something like video editing. Still, after thinking for a little longer, he suddenly froze for a moment as someone unexpectedly came to mind. His expression changed slightly when he realized that there actually was one person he could possibly ask for help. Without wasting any more time, he grabbed his phone and opened his contacts. After scrolling for a bit, he found Junhyun Nuna's name. He hesitated for a short while staring at her contact information. It had already been a long time since they had properly talked to each other, so he was not entirely sure whether messaging her out of nowhere was a good idea. Even so, he eventually gathered the courage to send her a message, carefully asking if she happened to have some free time the next day. Meanwhile, Junhyun Nuna was busy working at her waxing shop. At that moment, she was in the middle of waxing a customer and was fully focused on her work when her phone suddenly vibrated from a new notification. Since she constantly received reservation requests from customers throughout the day, she casually assumed that it was simply another booking message. However, when she picked up her phone and checked the notification, she was surprised to realize that the message had actually come from Junyoung. A small expression of surprise appeared on her face as she stared at his name on the screen. Shortly afterward, he even went ahead and booked himself for an appointment at her shop. The following day, Junyoung made his way to the waxing shop. Even while walking there, he still found the entire situation strange. The fact that Junhyun Nuna, someone he had known since childhood, was now running a waxing shop was something he still had difficulty fully believing. As soon as he entered the shop, she greeted him casually and immediately asked whether he was ready. Hearing her speak so naturally made him feel even more awkward. While looking at her, Junhyung quietly became lost in his own thoughts again. He reflected on how different things had been when they were younger. Back then, both of his parents had constantly been busy with work, which often left him alone at home. During those times, Junhyun Nuna would sometimes come over and spend time playing with him. Since their mothers had also been close friends, the two of them naturally spent quite a lot of time together during childhood. Junhyung remembered how he used to follow her around almost everywhere whenever she visited. Of course, part of the reason for that was simply because he had always thought she was extremely pretty even from a young age. Because of that, he had always enjoyed spending time with her. However, as time passed, things slowly began to change. Their meetings gradually became less frequent, and eventually they naturally drifted apart from each other. Junhyun Nuna had always been very smart, and later she got accepted into a good university in Seoul. After that, the distance between them only continued growing, and before he realized it, years had passed since they had properly stayed in touch. That was why seeing her again now felt so strange to him. No matter how much he thought about it, he still could not believe that she was actually running a waxing shop. At the same time, he also found it surprising that she had even asked him to become a model for her work. Even though the entire situation embarrassed him, he had still agreed in the end because he desperately needed her help with learning video editing. Since both of them wanted something from the other, it had naturally turned into a situation where they could help each other out. Not long afterward, she began preparing for the waxing session. The moment she actually started, Junyoung immediately became tense and instinctively tried to stop her. Seeing his reaction, she looked at him with amusement before teasingly asking whether he had already changed his mind. She calmly reminded him that finding male models for waxing practice was not easy at all. Then she pointed out that he had been the one who contacted her first because he wanted to learn video editing. Since both of them needed help from each other, asking him to model for her was only fair. Hearing that, Junyoung could not really argue back and reluctantly stayed still. After some time, the waxing session finally came to an end. Junyoung Nuna casually told him that they were done for the day, while Junyoung sat there looking completely drained and embarrassed after enduring the experience. However, before he could even relax properly, she informed him that he would still need to repeat the same process 5 more times in the future. She straightforwardly explained that whenever she called him over, he simply needed to come without complaining because that was part of their arrangement now. Although Junyoung clearly looked troubled by the idea, he quietly accepted it and nodded in agreement since he had no better option. Afterward, her mood suddenly became lighter as she suggested that the two of them should go grab some beer together. Later that night, both of them ended up drinking together at Junyoung's apartment. Since it had already been such a long time since they last spent time together, the atmosphere slowly became more relaxed as they continued drinking. While sitting there with her, Junyoung finally brought up the thing that had been worrying him from the beginning. He sincerely asked her if she could teach him how to edit videos properly, because he genuinely had no idea where to even start. However, instead of immediately teaching him, she smiled and said that it had already been such a long time since they had properly seen each other. She also mentioned that she had just finished a tiring day of work, so rather than talking about editing right away, they should drink comfortably first and enjoy the moment. She assured him that she could teach him later anyway. Hearing that, Junyoung eventually agreed. As the two of them continued drinking together, she suddenly brought up the waxing session from earlier and teasingly asked him how the experience had been for him. Embarrassed by the topic, Junyoung immediately told her to stop joking around because he could still feel the pain even now. His reaction only amused her more. Laughing lightly, she told him that it really was not even that bad and that he would naturally get used to it after experiencing it a few more times. According to her, it would eventually become comfortable for him. A little later, she casually mentioned that she genuinely had not known they were living in the same neighborhood now. With a soft smile on her face, she admitted that she hoped the two of them would get to see each other more often again, just like they used to during childhood. Junyoung also admitted that he had no idea she lived nearby either. Hearing her say that somehow made the atmosphere between them feel unexpectedly warm and nostalgic. As time passed, the mood between them gradually became strangely comfortable, which only caused Junyoung to grow more self-conscious and flustered. Unable to properly handle the awkward feeling building inside him, he suddenly stood up and awkwardly announced that he needed to use the restroom for a moment. After Junyoung left the room, Junhyun Nuna remained sitting there alone while casually drinking her beer. While waiting for him to return, her eyes unintentionally drifted toward his phone when the screen suddenly lit up from a new notification. Out of curiosity, she glanced at it and realized that the message had come from Juha. Along with the message, there was also a video attached. Seeing that, a faint smile appeared on her face as she quietly assumed that Junyoung might actually be seeing some girl. However, driven by curiosity, she eventually opened the video. The moment she saw what was inside, her entire expression immediately changed into complete shock and surprise. The video showed footage of Junyoung and Juha together during the workout session. Junhyung came out of the restroom and, in an unexpected moment, noticed Jihyun standing there while looking through his phone. The sight immediately made him panic, and he rushed forward in an attempt to grab it back from her. In his hurry and confusion, he suddenly slipped and ended up falling onto her, which made the situation even more awkward. Quickly recovering his balance, he asked her in a worried and flustered tone if she was okay. At the same time, he scolded her, telling her that she should not be touching or taking someone else's belongings without permission. Jihyun, however, did not seem too affected by his reaction. Instead, she casually mentioned that the video she had found on his phone was quite interesting, which caused Junhyung to panic again. Feeling increasingly embarrassed and anxious, he once again tried to take his phone back from her, but she firmly refused to return it. She then said that the man in the video was clearly him and asked if she was correct. At that point, Junyoung realized that she had already understood the situation, which left him feeling exposed. He asked her where exactly she had seen it, trying to understand how she had found out. After that, he ended up explaining the entire situation to her in detail. After listening carefully to everything he said, Ji-hyun responded by stating that, based on what he had told her, it seemed like he was doing this OnlyFans work simply to earn money, and that he was also trying to learn video editing in the process. She further added that she was quite certain this was the reason behind his actions, and casually remarked that younger people these days were very open-minded about such things. Hearing this, Junyoung cautiously asked her whether she would be willing to teach him video editing. Ji-hyun agreed to help him, but she immediately set down certain conditions. First, she stated that he should stop doing it once he had earned enough money, and warned that if he continued for too long, he might end up facing consequences, or even punishment, as she put it. Junyoung responded by saying that this was exactly what he intended to do anyway, so he had no problem agreeing to that condition. She then added a second condition, which surprised him even more. She demanded 20% of his earnings from that point onward. Seeing his shocked reaction, she calmly explained that she would also be keeping his secret safe, and therefore he should be paying her for that confidentiality. She further warned him that he should not trust any other girl or person with this matter, and also stated that he should not outsource any part of it to others. Junhyung questioned her after that, pointing out that she was already running a waxing shop by herself. In response, Ji-hyun admitted that she was running it secretly, and told him that he should understand how lucky he was to even be receiving her help. After a moment of hesitation, Junyoung eventually agreed to her terms. Ji-hyun then added yet another instruction, telling him that he should bring that girl with him next time. She explained that it would look strange on camera if someone had to wax themselves, and at that point Junhyung realized that she was also thinking about using Juha as a model for her shop. He immediately reacted by telling her not to say such ridiculous things. However, Ji-hyun insisted and added that she would even give a friendly discount, repeating that he should make sure to bring her next time. After that, she told him not to just sit around and follow her passively, but instead to pay attention because she would properly teach him something useful. Junyoung agreed, and Ji-hyun then sat in front of the computer and began guiding him through the editing process. She explained step by step what she was doing, telling him that this was an implementation course and that he needed to understand basic editing techniques. She showed him how to cut and shorten videos using shortcuts, and then went on to teach him how to add subtitles and manage the overall structure of editing properly. A few days later, Junyoung received a message from Juha asking him to meet her at a cafe. Seeing the message, he thought to himself that she could have simply checked the video after he had sent it instead of calling him there again. Still, he decided to go to the cafe, thinking that since he was already going, he might as well pass the time there, even considering playing some games while waiting, assuming she would probably already be there. When he arrived at the cafe, he noticed that Juha was already sitting there. She immediately told him that she had received the video. Then she asked him to sit next to her. Junhyung observed that she did not initially seem very bothered, but suddenly she became emotional and started raising her voice, saying that people kept insulting her and that she had not been able to defend herself properly in the end. She became visibly upset and somewhat agitated while expressing her frustration. Junhyung then asked her to calm down and explained that the audio was still available on his phone and that they could check it right there. He then handed her his phone so she could watch it directly. Juha began watching the video carefully and then commented that it looked quite decent. She asked him whether he had truly edited it himself or whether he had paid someone else to do it for him. Junyoung was surprised by her assumption and thought that she might have become very observant or suspicious. He told her that a friend had taught him how to edit. Upon hearing this, Juha looked at him in surprise and remarked that it was hard to believe he even had a friend who could teach him such things. However, she then added that the work itself was not bad. After that, she told him that she would send him the ID and password, and since she was busy, he should handle the uploading process himself from now on. Junhyung silently thought that she was still managing to insult him while making him do all the work at the same time. Despite that, the two of them ended up sitting together and playing a game on their phones. While playing, Junhyung quietly complained about her behavior in his mind. During this, Juha suddenly mentioned that there was one more thing she wanted to tell him. After losing the game, Juha looked visibly disappointed, though she tried not to show it too strongly. Junhyung, on the other hand, remained seated and quietly observed her reaction. In his thoughts, he began reflecting on her behavior, assuming that she might have learned games like this in a very casual or unstructured way, possibly from boys during her high school days. He further judged that she seemed a bit disorganized in her approach, and that instead of acting impulsively, she could have simply communicated more clearly about what she wanted to do. While he was still thinking this, Juha suddenly asked him whether he knew how to play Texas Hold'em. The question caught him slightly off guard, and he immediately clarified by asking if it was similar to poker. Juha confirmed that it was indeed a form of poker. Junhyung then responded that he had a basic understanding of it. At the same time, he silently assumed that he could probably perform better than Juha, whom he mentally considered inexperienced or unreliable in this kind of game. Juha then suggested that they should try playing it properly. She proposed that each of them put in 10,000 won and play just one round, explaining that it would help her recover a bit from her previous loss. Junhyung asked her what would happen if he ended up losing instead. Juha replied without hesitation that if he lost, he would need to make up for it with his skills rather than just money. Junhyung, hearing this, briefly thought to himself that even if he lost, he could technically just pay her back with money, but he did not express this thought aloud. After that, they began the game. As soon as the round started, Junhyung felt a slight sense of pressure, thinking that he might already be at a disadvantage from the very beginning. Juha sat beside him and kept encouraging him as they played, but internally he thought that such encouragement was unnecessary, especially since it was his first time and he needed to focus properly. He also considered that folding early would be the safest option if the stakes became too high, although he was still curious about how the other players were behaving and what their tendencies might be. Despite all this, he confidently told Juha that he could handle the situation. The first round eventually came to an end, and Junhyung ended up winning that round. Juha's reaction to his win was immediate and very energetic, as she became extremely excited. Watching her reaction, Junhyung silently observed that she did not seem to have a deep understanding of the game itself, and appeared to be reacting more emotionally than strategically. He also assumed that she might end up losing money if she continued in this way, and further judged that most of the players were probably average in skill. Even after that, he decided to continue playing a few more rounds. In his mind, he thought that none of the other participants were particularly strong players. He concluded that the main issue in the game was Juha's lack of experience, rather than any real difficulty in the competition itself. After several more rounds, Junhyung eventually asked Juha how much money he had earned in total. Juha then informed him that he had won 500,000 won in total. Hearing this, she became extremely excited and emotional. In her excitement, she suddenly hugged him without warning. Right after that, she began shouting at him, telling him that he should have informed her earlier that he knew how to play the game. At that moment, Junhyung realized that she had never actually asked him about his skill level or experience before starting the game. Juha then quickly shifted the topic and said that they should have started working on the workout session together earlier as well. Junhyung responded by pointing out that they were in a public place, implying that it might not be appropriate to do such things there. However, Juha replied that she did not hesitate or feel uncomfortable in such situations. After this exchange, both of them proceeded to begin the workout session together, as she had suggested. Juha instructed Junhyung to record the entire workout session on his phone so that it could be used later. Junhyung followed her instructions and kept his phone recording throughout the session without interruption, focusing on capturing everything as she directed. After they had finished the workout session completely, both of them left the gaming session area together and came out into the open space outside. Once they were outside, Juha immediately turned to him and told him that he should properly edit the video, add it together in a clean format, and send it to her as soon as possible. Junhyung nodded and agreed to her request without arguing, acknowledging that he would handle the editing and delivery. He then mentioned that the original idea of the video was supposed to be centered around the PC cafe environment, but in reality, most of the recording had ended up taking place in the bathroom area instead, which made the structure feel a bit inconsistent. Upon hearing this, Juha calmly responded that there was also another camera placed near their seats, implying that multiple angles and recordings had already been arranged. Junhyung was completely unaware of this detail. Hearing it from her made him realize that she had actually been planning the whole setup from the very beginning. This realization made him pause mentally, as he started understanding that the situation was not as spontaneous as he had initially believed. Juha then added that there was nothing strange or wrong about it and further explained that he might have thought she suddenly got excited about the workout session because of him, but she clearly stated that this was not the case at all. Junhyung quickly responded, agreeing with her and saying that he had not assumed anything like that. Juha then told him not to behave strangely or overthink the situation and casually informed him that she was leaving. Junhyung observed her tone and behavior and thought to himself that she would likely leave on her own regardless of anything else. With that in mind, he followed her briefly as she walked away down the street. After that, Junhyung eventually returned to his home. Once he was alone, he started reflecting on the entire situation while thinking about the content he had recorded. In his mind, he considered that, although the overall concept of the content was actually quite strong and had potential, the structure of the video itself was poorly organized from a technical standpoint and felt somewhat unsatisfactory to him. as someone who was now involved in editing. However, at the same time, he also thought that the raw and unpolished nature of the footage gave it a more realistic feel. He believed that this realism could actually make it more engaging and exciting for viewers if it was edited in a certain way. While he was in the middle of editing the video, his phone suddenly received a message from Fernhwa. In the message, she asked him whether he would be available sometime this weekend. Junyoung was thinking that Fernhwa might have been referring to the assignment they had discussed earlier, and based on that understanding, both of them had decided to meet on Saturday. After that, he went back to focusing on editing the video, trying to continue his work as usual. A few days later, Saturday finally arrived, and only then did he fully realize that the meeting they had planned was supposed to happen that day. With that thought in mind, he was already standing at the designated meeting spot, continuously messaging her and asking her to reach out quickly. While waiting there, he kept thinking to himself that this situation might actually resemble a date more than a simple meeting, which made him slightly more nervous and confused. After some time, she appeared in front of him. She was fully dressed up and looked prepared as if she had already planned everything in advance. Without wasting time, she immediately told him that they should start moving. Junyoung, still slightly unsettled, asked her if she had been calling him by strange or weird names earlier. In response, she casually said that she could call him whatever she wanted. Hearing this, he felt even more unsure and said that he probably should not have shown her the assignment in the first place. However, she dismissed his concern by saying that it was already too late to think about that, and insisted again that they should just leave immediately, as there was no time to waste. Soon after, both of them arrived outside a clothing store. She told him that he should have informed her if there was anything he specifically wanted to buy. Junyoung, on the other hand, was observing the place and thinking that this was the kind of store where all the stylish and confident people usually bought their clothes. Because of that, he felt somewhat awkward and overwhelmed, as if he did not fully belong in that environment. She then suggested that they should begin with something simple that he could wear on a daily basis. She honestly added that, from what she could see, the more she looked at him, the more she felt he should dress in a way that covered him properly, recommending that he stick to basic inner layers and a decent jacket that could help conceal his body shape. After that, she started picking out clothes and showing them to him, encouraging him to try each of them on one by one. At the same time, she also commented that flashy or overly bold styles did not suit him well. During all of this, Junyoung simply stood there, quietly observing her as she moved around selecting clothes. While watching her, he thought that she was just the best friend of Juha, and in his mind, he began to feel that perhaps both of them shared certain similarities in personality or behavior. Meanwhile, she continued showing him different clothing options without stopping. At one point, she suddenly told him not to look at her in that way, and added that she already knew she was beautiful, telling him instead to focus properly on choosing his clothes. This remark made Junyoung feel embarrassed, and he quickly became more conscious of himself. She then further commented that he should consider changing his glasses, suggesting that they might be the reason he looked somewhat strange. Without hesitation, she even removed his glasses herself. Junyoung immediately thought that without them he could barely see anything, but she insisted that he should use contact lenses instead. After that, she told him to pay the bill and follow her, adding that they still had more places to visit. Accepting this, both of them left, and later went into a beauty salon. Once Junyoung had his haircut done, she looked at him and said that he now looked like a completely brand new person. Junyoung, upon seeing his reflection, could hardly believe the change himself. She then further remarked that he finally looked like a human being and told him that he should be grateful to her. She also warned him to stop staring at his reflection for too long, before she ended up smashing his phone. After that, she once again pointed out that he looked very different compared to the last time she had seen him. Junyoung explained that the difference was likely because he had gotten a haircut and also changed his clothes. However, she responded by saying that she could not properly explain it, but it felt as though there was something on his mind. Hearing this, Junyoung slowly began to realize that she might actually be sensing something unusual about him. She then shifted the topic and said that since she had worked hard throughout the day, he should treat her to dinner. Junyoung agreed to this, and both of them decided to go out and eat beef together. They eventually went to a restaurant, but Junyoung realized that he did not have enough money with him. Seeing this, she suggested that she would do him a favor and settle for chicken and beer instead, while she herself would only have a honey combo. Junyoung agreed to this arrangement, although he kept thinking that she was still making him pay in the end. During the meal, she commented that he did not even know how to drink properly, and jokingly said that it was no surprise since he was a man who had never dated anyone before. Junyoung responded by saying that even though he had never dated, he was not someone that inexperienced. She then asked him about the person who had taken his cardio card, and he replied that he had only undergone workout training. She then called him boring and said that he had ruined her drink. After that, she said they should leave, and reminded him that he needed to pay for the drinks as well. Junhyung asked her to use Samsung Pay from his phone, and she agreed. However, when she took his phone, she unexpectedly noticed several notifications from Juha, which left her quite surprised. Inha was staring at Junhyung's phone, unable to understand why Juha would send him such a huge amount of money. She began thinking that maybe the two of them had actually gone through with the workout session and uploaded the video onto the platform. Unable to ignore her curiosity anymore, Inha decided to open the messages one by one. As she read through them, she saw a message from Juha, informing Junhyung that they were currently in a great position and had already made 2 million won in sales. Juha had also mentioned that she had just transferred his share of the money to him. After that, she asked him whether he was planning to edit the next video as well. At that moment, Inha finally realized that everything she had been suspecting was actually true. She could not help but think about how she had already made her feelings clear to him before, yet things still ended up like this. The more she thought about it, the more convinced she became that there was definitely some kind of deal going on between Junhyung and Juha.